Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Need to Nerd podcast. I have a Need to Nerd, and my name is Spencer, and I am joined by my co-host, a CCMTG Open Top 8 competitor, commissioner of the Heasy Game Media Fantasy Football League, and the fan of the most consistently over-talked about football team in history, Paddy B.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks for the nice, excellent introduction there. I'm excited to we filled up our fantasy league, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, give the listeners your sleeper pick. What's your biggest sleeper, Paddy?
Oh man, if I do this, you'll draft him. I can't win our draft. I am a huge fan of Tyler Algier, BYU guy in Atlanta. I think he's got excellent opportunity to be the starter down there.
Oh yeah, they don't have a running back, so and Cordell Patterson was taking like so many of the snaps at running back when he really shouldn't. I think that's a pretty good pick. Mine is actually the tight end for the Falcons. I actually think that Kyle Pitts had a medium year last year and will be like pretty low on people's tight end rankings. Actually has a chance to be like a top 3 tight end this year.
No, he's being drafted that way right now.
Oh, I didn't know that. My sleeper pick's not that good then. Yeah. I think Kyle Pitts has a real chance to have like a good year. I also think
it's interesting that we chose Atlanta players.
Well, isn't Mariota starting for them this year?
Yeah.
I think that opens up a lot of the offense. Like, and that's nothing against Matt Ryan. It's just like the offense. Different. Yeah, the offense will just be a lot different with, like, if you think about, we're like turning into a football podcast all of a sudden, so we gotta get off the subject.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But legitimately, like, if you're a fantasy football person, you understand that like having a quarterback like Mariota at quarterback changes the type of way that the players around your quarterback. So like if you're in a PPR league, a Marcus Mariota wide receiver gets a lot better than a Matt Ryan wide receiver, right? Because Matt Ryan's not going to spread the ball out. He's going to have 2 of his favorite targets. They're going to get 1,200 yards and a bunch of touchdowns. Whereas Marcus, he's going to throw the ball a lot of times for short yardage to a lot of different guys, like the running backs and stuff like that. So anyway, that was your fantasy football update for the week. We're not talking about fantasy football. We are doing the next one in our series, Brisingr. And this, I wanted to talk about the nerd fact of the week this week for Brisingr, because if you weren't reading the books as they came out, you might not know this, but Brisingr was not a book originally. In fact, it had to get a name change. And then they actually had to add a book, and they almost added another one. His editor was like, no. But Brisingr was actually supposed to be the last book. The 3rd book in the trilogy was supposed to be the last one. And what it ended up happening is, as spoiler alerts, by the way, we're just going to dive right into spoilers for this book. So if you haven't read it and you're reading the series and you're following along as we do these podcasts, go read the book, because I'm going to spoil pretty big right off the bat. So what ends up happening is Christopher's writing this book. And as he's writing it, he had the outline for how the last book was going to go, but he gets to the part where Aragorn is going to kill Sloane. And he goes, actually, I can't do this. Aragorn wouldn't do this. And he has to rewrite this whole entire book, basically. Not like from the ground up, but from his outline into what the book became. Additionally, this means that a lot of the other things have to change, right? It means that the other chapters get added so that Aragorn can go visit him. It also means that, you know, a lot of stuff happens that wasn't going to happen. Did you know that, Paddy B? I assume you did.
Yeah, so I did not start reading the books until Eldest came out. I read those 2, and then when Brisingr came out, I, get like mixed feelings, because like back then, I was really upset with the book, right? How it like didn't. I thought it was supposed to be like a trilogy kind of thing, and like this was gonna be like the end, and it didn't happen. And
We gotta
left
say
for
this
like
because
years and years.
yeah, this is a huge thing for me. So don't dive into this because we're actually gonna talk about this. No, it's okay.
Yes, I was out when it came out.
Man, we're gonna talk about this. I have to. This was the wrong nerd fact of the week because we already want to dive in. Let's talk about Paddy's poll. So for future episodes, for what it's worth, including the last one, we actually have the poll on Anchor. So Anchor is our sponsor. Really appreciate just the service that Anchor provides. I don't know where the ad roll is in this, but I'll just say it on the show anyway. That this podcast is made possible because of Anchor. It's the easiest way to create and publish a podcast. It is amazing, and I love their service. So you can find the poll on Anchor, but also on Twitter. We do the poll every week. And Paddy's poll last week. Paddy, dude, what was the poll?
So last week the poll was. Let me click on it here. Pull it up. Is the Multiverse of Madness the worst superhero movie ever for its cost? We had 4 votes of yes, it was so bad. No votes for no. There are so many.
So 100% of the 4 people who voted in our poll said it's the worst movie at its cost. It was so bad. Like
I don't think so. But
the thing is, here I think
yeah.
I didn't get to talk about this last week, but I do think that a huge problem is that it wasn't a Doctor Strange movie. And I think that like when Marvel does this, people get upset. Like this is not the first time that Marvel has made a movie with one person's name attached to it, and that's not who the movie's about. And like this movie was not a Doctor Strange movie. It was a Wanda Maximoff movie. And like
under the guise of Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and like it's just rough. It's like I don't know. But thank you to everybody who answered the poll and having my back on this one. I will say I will repeat what I said on the last one. I do believe that we looked up the cost of what was it? It was there was another superhero movie that I was like, oh, this at its cost is probably worse.
Some of the like Iron Man 2, I think
all the Iron Man movies
cost.
Are totally fine, totally and better than this.
Yeah.
I think Dark World is better than this movie. I think that like of the Marvel movies, I don't think there's one as bad as this one. I think it's the worst Marvel movie. Maybe that's true. Maybe Doctor Strange 1 was worse. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you go back and forth on that.
Yeah, I hated Doctor Strange 1. It was funny because somebody else was like, Spencer, why did you watch Doctor Strange 2 if you hated Doctor Strange 1? And I was like, because everybody said it was good. You gotta keep up with the stuff. Oh, no.
And also the way that they, like, are tying everything together with everything, right? Like,
yeah,
I kind of feel like you have to watch all of the things.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to out on Marvel. Like, I might be pretty close to done. Some of the phase stuff excites me, but we'll see. Before we move on, I just want to shout out the CCMTG Open winner, Mike. Mike piloted Golgari Devotion to a victory, if you're an MTG fan. And it was... Our Discord totally popped off for this tournament. Everybody stayed. People started talking about Smash in there. So if you want to join the Discord, link is in the show notes. If you want to become a Patreon of Heezy Game Media, head on over to patreon.com/HeezyGameMedia and check it out. With that being said, let's talk about Brisingr. Paddy B, what is Brisingr?
What is Brisingr? So it is the 3rd book of the Inheritance Cycle. It is really the it's the middle book, right? It feels like the glue that ties everything together.
That it?
Let's see. I mean, it's the longest book in the series. I think it felt the longest reading it.
I think it's definitely. I think it's the longest book in my Audible, if I'm not mistaken. It's right. Like, and I think it's by a substantial margin too. If I go to Audible, I go to audiobooks, I sort by length, Go the other direction. Won't let me go the other direction anymore. Audible updated. It sucks now. It is actually not longer than Inheritance in audiobook form, but I don't know if the interview on Inheritance is longer. And it is also not longer than his next book, which is In a Sea of Stars. But for context, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is by far the longest Harry Potter book, is 26 hours audiobook. And
Brisinger's
like
28.
29 and a half hours.
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
So, I mean, it is a doozy.
Yeah. And it's not even like Inheritance didn't feel that long reading it. And I think part of that is to do with this book highlights a lot of like POV stories. So you have a few different things that happen that take up a bunch of space, like the Trial of Long Knives, the Dwarf King, story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those little mini stories within Brisingr.
Yeah, there's a lot of really kind of cool moments. What's really cool is I have the fandom up, and they break this down into parts. They have Revenge, they have Fleeing Hellgrind, they have the Trial of the Long Knives, then they have Search, which is kind of talking about this, like this this part where characters you start seeing their motivations for this book, and kind of where their headspace is at during this book. Then you have obviously like Aragon and Arya getting together and making their way back. The marriage, the parts. I mean, there's so much. The parts with lifting the curse. Getting a sword. There's so many individual pieces that make up many parts of the story that this book it's a thick boy, I would say. Let's talk really quickly about our first impressions, and you kind of gave a little bit of yours, and I'm going to echo it. I would say this was the most anticipated book in the history of my life. Like, I was more excited for this than I was for like Harry Potter 7. Like I read every blog post and like I was on the forums. Like, I was so excited for this book.
Way to date ourselves, Spencer.
And I was kind of heartbroken. Was my first impression. We'll get into it in Could Be Betters, but I have a lot of Could Be Betters for this book. It is still my least favorite of the Inheritance cycle. It is my wife's favorite, for what it's worth. This is her favorite one. I had my first impression of this book was, why does it take so long to get to a part that I care about? And also, why is Aragon being such a baby?
Oh, it does kind of feel that way at parts.
What about you? What were your first memories or impressions?
Well, yeah, that's the only thing I can really compare it to as far as like anticipation for a book coming out was Harry Potter 7. Right, like that and this are just right up there as far as excitement and ready for something like this to come out, a book like this. But yeah, first impressions, I got into it, and very similar. It's just like where is I didn't, when I was younger, I didn't care about all those side stories. So I just kept reading and going into it like, okay, like tell me more. Like, let's progress, the main story that I cared about, which was, Aragon, and after, the way that Eldest ended, right, on the him, this huge, giant, reveal.
Dude, it's straight up like getting Empire, and then the next book is some random side quest before Return of the Jedi. It's like, what just happened? It's like, oh my gosh, they took Han Solo and freaking Darth Vader's my dad, but let's like go to I don't even know. It was the thing is
let's go build a Jedi Academy.
It's so weird because it starts so strong, right, with the assault on Helgrind, and it's like boom, 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 and then it's like, what just happened? Like,
yep.
And it's funny because you kind of feel the way that like Roran and Saphira are feeling. You're like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, they asked that a ton of times in this book. Like, excuse me, dude, what the heck?
So yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah. Let's talk about our favorite character POV. I reread this for this episode, and mine changed, and it's gonna shock people. My favorite character POV in this book was Glader. My least favorite character in the whole series, but this time, listening to it, actually, I really, really liked that part. And it actually shows me why I think I hated Glader so much in the fourth book, is because that POV is so good, and then he's just a different character in the fourth book. And it's fine, like, I get it, he's just lost his writer, so he's gonna be different. But he's like so jaded in the fourth book, and he's always a little jaded, but like, I don't know, I really thought that the writing from his perspective as over the attack on Gilead was really good. I was gonna say Nasawada, but like, I don't know, it feels like a cop-out because she's just the coolest character in the entire series. So, what about you? Who's your favorite POV?
Well, it was gonna be Nasawada.
Can be.
It sounds like a cop out.
No, it doesn't. I can see your answer, so that's why I made the joke.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, you see so much like growth with her, and you get to see more of her character in this book, I think, than any of the other books. She experiences the most growth in this book and really becomes the leader we all want her to be, and it's great.
So in the last book, when Wes was still co-hosting with me, I almost asked him if he wanted to join this episode, but I think he's playing StarCraft right now. Too busy for us. We both said Nasawada was our favorite POV, and honestly, like, she's just my favorite POV in the whole series, which is wild because the book series is about Aragon. But I think that, like, she is tackling such different problems than the rest of the POV characters, than Roran, than Saphira, than Glader, than Aragon. It's just really interesting to get inside of her headspace, because she has to deal with like political problems, personal problems. It's not in this book. I think it's actually in Eldest, where she's contemplating, like, am I supposed to marry I don't remember the certain king's name off the top of my head, but like, as things progress, like, you really get inside of her headspace as far as Roran, for example, and like her thoughts on Roran. I really liked that. I'm giving you an opening so you can talk about probably your favorite POV part here.
So my second, I mean, it's a favorite. Well, the favorite part, we'll get into it in the moment.
Oh, okay.
Right, is the trial of the long knives. You kind of see that as a catalyst for her character as well. What I was looking up, I was trying to find the King of Serta. I forget what his name is, but that's right who you're talking about.
Yeah, the douchebag. What's his name? I don't remember.
Yeah. Oh shoot.
We
don't remember his name because he's
he sucks so hard.
Kind of a dick. Yeah.
Uh, how do we not know this off the top? I'm gonna look at it and I'm out. Orin, that's right. He goes from like this quirky guy into like this drunk douche.
Right, yeah, he's like, I like science and chemicals and, studying the stars, and then he just, becomes drunk with power.
Who is, I mean, speaking of side characters, who is your favorite side character?
So my favorite side character, it's a very small moment, but Jode and his wife, in this book, where Aragon goes and he is giving, I think he like extracts the gold, right, to repay his debts, and he goes and visits Jode, and this is where Jode gives him the book. I forget what it's called, but it's like um, the history of Allegasia. And his wife there's a line from there where like his wife takes the gold and like is like, I'm gonna make this the most successful business. Um, and I just loved that empowerment, right? Like it was super cool to have a side character have something like that um in the book.
Yeah, my favorite side character is also not in this book a lot, and the moments are kind of similar to yours. My favorite side character this read through was Fredra, or Hevedra, which is Oric's wife. When they get to, I have an honorable mention though. The Urgol, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. Why can't I? I'm just like
Gajvog.
Yeah, Narjgavog. He is second favorite, but Hevedra. I like the way that she talks to Oric. In this, like, hey, like, don't be down on yourself. Like, she's like this champion for him, and also like really well based. And I thought that for, I don't know, for like this character that gets very little time, you learn a lot about like what Oric, because when Oric talks about her in Eldest, you're like, who's this woman that he is clearly madly in love with, like,
Yeah.
head over heels for, and you like immediately see why in the writing, and I really liked that. So
I think it's also interesting that we chose characters and their wives, right? As our favorite.
I actually like
character.
Oric has some good moments in this book, but Vedra overall I was just really impressed with. Let's talk about favorite storylines. I'll go first. I have my favorite storyline in this book particularly is the kind of the end of the book where they have their like their battle and their it's separate though, because like while the assault on Gilead is great, I actually found the siege of is it Feinster. Okay. Yeah, it's right there. I found that part to be really cool. There's like great moments from a lot of different characters. You know, Arya killing the Shade, the battle between those mages, the leader of Feinster, like being like, "Yo, I can't stop these people, and I really would like you to." I don't know. It wrapped up the book really well. In a pretty great way. My honorable mention for this part though is actually just the overarching theme of the sword.
That is one of my favorite moments as well. Is when I think the name is Runon. Is the elf who makes all the dragons riders swords, and vowed to not do it again. The way that they like got around that,
Oh,
right? To
that
have
is my
her like
wife's literal favorite part of like any book she's ever read.
having him make his sword, and how they find the the asteroid metal
Yeah.
under the tree. Yeah, no, that whole thing, I concur that's just one of the awesome
Well,
parts.
I actually mean just the whole theme, right? Like he like goes to fight the freaking Razak with a staff like an idiot.
Yeah,
And then he
still
gets
wins. So
sure.
gets lucky. Yeah.
And then he goes to fight and then he goes back and like gets the falchion which my wife thought was a scimitar. I showed her what a falchion looks like. She's like, that looks like a pirate sword. I was like, yeah, it's like a cutlass that's like doesn't have the it's like longer and doesn't have the fist guard. She's like, that's weird. I didn't think it looked like that. I was like, that's just what's described. He calls it like a long fisherman's knife. Have you seen a fish knife before? It's long, one blade, and then the end has this like hook point. It's literally what he says. And that's not how it looked in my head. I was like, well. All the way to like, him looking for the metal, looking at the other sword. That was really cool. Also, just because I have to give an honorable mention to it, I also. Oh, this is favorite. This is favorite storylines. This isn't favorite moments yet. Okay, what about you? What was your favorite storyline?
Oh shoot, yes, we are in favorite storyline. I liked so as a second favorite POV character, would be like Roran, and his storyline in this book, um, is pretty compelling as well. He gets married. He has the whole, um, you know, him trying to like understand, like having to work with the Urgles, and him going on his missions for the war, um, were cool.
All right, let's get to your favorite moment. You're like all
Yay!
excited. I love it. I love the excitement.
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned at the beginning, right? With my favorite POV character, the Trial of the Long Knives, where Nasawada is challenged by this other leader from the Varden, I think Fadwar, um, to like maintain leadership of the Varden, and
He's from the traveling nomad group. I don't remember what they're called.
mm-hmm.
That where
yeah,
where her like father's from.
The Wandering Tribes.
Yeah, there we go.
And so yeah, he comes to try and take leadership of the Varden, and they have this trial, where without magic, you can't heal yourself, and it's whoever can sustain the most cuts to their wrists, and it was um
It's like
I
an
knew
intense
friends
read
who
every time,
it
right?
is, yeah. Like I knew friends who had done that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And because it was around that time, like I was in high school, and this was just like the way it was written and dragging on, like with each cut, it was so good. It's one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, just really quickly, I just want to say, if you're dealing with any self-harm stuff and this is triggering for you, skip
Yes.
a little bit, and also, talk to somebody. It really does help. I see a therapist constantly, and if you need somebody to talk to, slide into my DMs too. Like, I'm free, and I'm a person that probably cares because I have dealt with stuff myself, and people will be there for you. That being said, I think that one of the best parts of this whole moment is her conversation afterwards, where she learns that she was lied to and that she was not supposed to win, and that lie is what pushed her to victory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the like going 2 in a row, like taking those extra risks and going and pushing more in the challenge. You got to really see her strength. Um, what is one of your favorite moments?
Um, so when I was younger, Roran was my favorite character when I first read these books. But I can't stand Roran as an adult. So my answers actually changed. I also loved Elva as a younger person, and Elva kind of bugs me as an adult. Not like in a reasonable way because she's a baby, so I like shouldn't be as upset by her as I am. But I'm like, you're annoying. Like, it's hard. I think that my favorite moment this read through, was probably the moment where I wanted to say the moment where Aragon is talking to the guy that's like trying to hit on Arya and like says that he's her brother to get him to go
Sure.
away. But I actually really liked the part, even though I don't like, we'll get into this during my Could Be Betters, even though like, but I how do I want to say this? I really enjoyed Arya getting like kind of lifting the veil back for Aragon in a lot of ways. It definitely made you care about her in a different way. She wasn't just like this love interest for the main character. Like, you learned like she's been in love before. While Aragon loves her and she's his first love. Like, she spent every day with the love of her life that she had to watch die, and like, I don't know. It's probably that moment really where they're talking. But yeah. Next up we have our Could Be Betters. I think the entire middle of this book sucks. I just said it was my favorite moment of this read through, but because sometimes like you have to accept what you're given, right? And like I still like this book. But holy crap, Christopher, if somehow you're watching this, dude, just sacrifice a little bit of Aragon's character to kill Sloane. Like, I get it. I appreciate what he's doing, right? As an author, he's being true to his characters. Just don't write out the middle part. Just have him show up. Write that as a separate book later down the road. Like, it dragged so. It's so funny because everybody says that Eldest drags. Like, when you get complaints about this series, people are like, Eldest drags. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's like extremely easy to read, and like I got through that book in like a day. This book drags in the middle specifically. Once Aragon gets back to the Varden, it's like hit, but that middle part is a slog. Like, the elves showing up to like Saphira getting grumpy and like having the conversation with Nasrad, like the whole middle part is like, oh my gosh, like,
right. Like, while the moments are like we can find those good things like about those middle parts, right? Like, some of our favorite moments are in the middle parts as moments, but as a whole, it's so slow, and
it's just
can turn you off as a reader.
It's just a complete, like, if you are sitting and reading these books and like you get done with all this, it's kind of like you said, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for the next chapter of this story, and then you like, oh my gosh, he killed the Razak too. Oh my gosh, what are we doing? What? Why is Aragon running across an entire country? Like,
yeah,
and the thing is, I remember as a teenager, because there's a map at the beginning of that freaking book. I should have grabbed it, and I just looked and was like, that's so far. Like, why is he doing that? Also, like, just go have Roran and Katrina set up camp and then do it, and then you can fly back with him. Like the fact that, like, oh man, I have so many problems actually. Like, Aragorn is not as stupid as he feels in this. And I, like, if it's just that, like, if it's just that Christopher didn't know what Aragorn was going to do, but it's like, Aragorn's like, leave because I don't know what to do. It's like, there's no one in there to kill Sloane. Like, just go set up camp and say, I'm going back to look for stuff. Stay here in case there's, like, curses or something. I don't know. You could probably think of an excuse to go back into Helgrind without Katrina and Roran. Like, there's just no reason for what happened. And that bugs me.
Yeah, Aragon does make that's probably one of my quippy betters, right? Is just like, not only is it slow, right? It's a general overarching thing, but Aragon, I think, well, we'll say characters in this book are just like not the smartest, or they make these decisions that you just ask, like, what are you doing?
What are your other
Yeah,
could be better? Do you have any more?
I mean, I didn't have as many Kivy betters. The main thing was, right, that, like, I was almost turned off as a reader because of how slow it was in the middle.
Yeah, I think that
Like, if I remember, I actually stopped reading this book as when I was younger. I think I did stop reading. I didn't reread it until later on, when Inheritance was closer to coming out.
sure. I think
So
a huge problem that I also had with this book is, like, actually, I'm just saying, why is Aragorn running across the country everywhere? Like, it's like, oh, we can't have you leave with Saphira, but we need you to go to this, like, vote thing. And it's like, why are the dwarves so stupid?
it's an
Like,
image thing, right? Like, they don't want
I know, but, like,
the Varden to, like, see him flying off.
like, is he
So, like, they
faster
create
than...
the...
Also, like, how far is Helgrind from... I wish I had the map in front of me. Maybe I can pull it up. How far is freaking Helgrind from the Elf City?
It's pretty far.
Is it?
I do have it up here.
Is oh, that's right, because it's like multiple... This is so stupid. The whole thing bugs me. I just...
He runs across... It's like the entire Hatterack Desert, right? That he, like, runs.
Alright. Well, he also has to run to the dwarves. He also has to, like...
Oh, because they're in the Beor Mountains.
Yeah, and then Saphira leaves anyway. And then, not only does she leave, she then flies to the freaking forest. It's fine. I just, like...
And again, these could be betters, right? So
Yeah.
it's not like, don't read the book, or like, don't.
They really did, like, I love this book, so I'm not trying to, like, it has so much, like, amazing character growth, and let's move on to Lovitz, because, like, I have a lot of them, but it really bugs me how much Aragorn runs across the country in this book. I'll start off with Lovitz, because I'm the one screaming. Dude, I loved Aragorn making the sword. I loved just the moment, the oh crap moment from Saphira when she realizes she messed up, like, hurting that tree, the Minnow tree, like, was so funny to me. I loved the moment where Braum is talking to Aragorn as his father. I loved learning that Braum is his father. I did not expect that as a reader the first time. I loved I'm gonna say one more and then I'm gonna let you go so I don't take all of yours. I loved Oric's plan to beat oh my gosh, I'm gonna mess up this clan name because it's weird. Nas... Now I have to look it up so that I don't mess it up. Rak Onowin, but I don't... speak Dwarvish, so
Let's see.
Oswald Rak Onowin.
Yes.
Asweldin Rak Onowin. There we go. That's how you say it. Asweldin Rak Onowin. Like, that moment where Orc gets him good, awesome. I loved it. I was like, oh man, they're giving their entire clan the silent treatment. What up? I don't know.
That was really cool.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. So I do love the how it worked. Yeah. Became the Dwarf King. That whole plot, and Saphira and Aragon repairing the Isidar Mithram. The rose thing that they broke in the first book. I love that kind of wrapped that story up. We talked about a lot about my Levitts already. Yeah, and the sword. I love Brisingr when he actually like finally starts using it, and it's just like the whole thing lights on fire.
All right, behind the scenes, total nerd stuff. I'm gonna tell you about my D&D character. 'Cause I've never talked about it on the podcast, and I was waiting till the end of this episode to finally reveal my character. My character's name is Jacen, Jacen, and for those of you that are Star Wars fans, you probably get that reference. Jacen grew up in a cult that he had to escape, where he went into a traveling circus. And Jacen is a 2-weapon rapier fighter. One of his rapiers is an attuned rapier that when he says a word of power, lights on fire and deals fire damage. And he's a bard ranger, cross class. And then his second rapier, he has a spell that he can cast to light that one on fire. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Where you've drawn some inspiration
from all over, right? We got. Right. Come on. If cool. Christopher can literally stake a lightsaber off of Star Wars, I can do it.
Right. That's yeah. I guess that is basically like the equivalent of a lightsaber, is a sword on fire.
Yeah. So my character is based on one of the characters that my character is based on. There's 3 of them, and one of them is Aragon in this series. So let's rate it. Scale of 0 to 5 is the rating we go. We've never given a 0. We probably never will, because we probably wouldn't talk about something that we would give a 0 to. Right. I'll let you go first. What's your rating for this book? Before you do, you actually haven't rated the other 2, so I'm actually going to make you rate Aragon and Eldest first.
Okay. So, Aragon, we will give a 4.5. Pretty good. Eldest gets the full 5 stars. That book is fantastic. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's golf clap. And then for Brisingr, I'm gonna go with 3, just like because there's so many awesome character books that moments that we love, but just the fact that it just drags you kicking and screaming.
Dude, a 3 is so low for this podcast.
I know.
Like, I would give this book a 3 or a 3.5, somewhere in there too. Here's the thing, is that I enjoy this book, but it is because I enjoy the characters. Like, as a book, like as its own piece of art, it's kind of rough.
Yeah, there's no way if someone happened to stumble into this book.
It's funny because we're gonna do Inheritance soon, and people will hear a lot of similar complaints to Inheritance from me, but it'll be different. It'll be like, I'll just say, I'm spoiler alert for the Inheritance episode. This book didn't need to exist. However, it's possible that parts of this and Inheritance could have been 3 books.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Just to be clear, like, I don't think the book Brisingr needed to exist. I do think parts of Brisingr as a book needed to exist in a book to tell this story. But I don't, it is, I would give it a 3. It's, the storylines are amazing, the character growth is astounding, just the moments are so. I'm gonna actually go up. I'm gonna go 3.5. It is just a lot of fluff. Like the entire book is fluff. You have the beginning and end, no fluff.
Mm-hmm.
Not even just the end. The second quarter of the book is all fluff. The whole thing. I would argue from the moment that Roran and Katrina leave Helgrind to the moment that Saphira gets to the Dwarven city, that entire section is fluff. And that's a lot of the book. So
yeah, like maybe the salve to that, right, is like do a Roran book, right, where they go, like, you go into detail about the wedding, right, and his adventures, like Roran's adventures as a captain of the Varden, and a lot of those, pieces.
The thing
could
is
be...
I actually, as a kid, like, it was crazy going back and forth between POVs, because Eldest was the first multiple POV book I had ever read in my life. And this book, it was like, I don't know, it didn't feel as exciting. Or, I know that Wes talked about on last episode, like, he would skip to the parts he wanted of the characters during Eldest, right? And I found myself doing that in this book, and just doing Aragon. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Honorable
What the character
shout out,
I actually care about.
Honorable shout out before we wrap up, just really quickly. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the pile of bodies as Roran kills, I think it was like almost 200 soldiers. And like, that moment is cool to me. I don't know why, but yeah. New poll, Patty's poll. What is it?
Yep. So, Patty's poll. Where did I put it in the disco? And here it is. Singing it through. So, since this episode, we're talking about this YA book series. I wanted to do, ask our listeners, right, like what their favorite YA book series is. So for my wife, that would be Harry Potter, the Inheritance Cycle, I think the Percy Jackson series, or other, as far as options. And yeah, let us know.
I would guess most people are like between the ages of like 21 to like almost 40. One of those three is it.
Right.
Or maybe Twilight for some people, if you consider that like fantasy.
Yeah, I guess you could consider Twilight fantasy, right? Vampires and werewolves.
Yeah, it's more like gothic love, but who knows?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that up on Twitter. We'll put that up on here on the episode on Anchor. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. You can find me at Spencer13H. You can find the podcast at Need to Nerd Pod. You can find He's a Game Media at He's a Game Media. You can check us out on YouTube, where I do a Smash podcast with Matt once a month called Smash Through, as well as the Constructive Criticism Network and all of the other content on He's a Game Media. You can find Paddy B at
Paddy B MTG on Twitter. DM me.
That's right. And you can also find him next week in the booth with me for the 1K at Gamer Lehigh. I didn't actually ask him. I'm just telling him. So.
Oh, you're just... I was like, I didn't know about this, but all right. I mean, we'll see.
He's like, am I doing that? Thank you, everybody, so much. Smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. If you get a chance to leave us a review, please do. And we'll see you guys all next time for another episode of the Need to Nerd podcast.
Thanks, everyone.